The following edition of Connecticut Valley Views is made possible by Windsor Federal Savings, with offices in Windsor, Bloomfield, Granby, and East Windsor. Neighbors helping neighbors since 1936. Join me, Susan Regan, host of Connecticut Valley Views, the most widely watched interview program on Connecticut Public Access TV. Proof to the people is the byline, insight without bias, generating a 360 perspective. Our mission is to focus on topical subjects with thought-provoking interviews regarding municipal leadership, current affairs, educational and political topics, as well as key destination points in New England.
And here's your host for Connecticut Valley Views, Susan Regan.
Hello, and thank you for joining me today. We are at the Simsbury Senior Center at Eno Memorial Hall in Simsbury, Connecticut, and our subject is the status of our community seniors, comprised of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender citizens, otherwise known as LGBT. And my first guests are Kathleen Marschall, she is the Simsbury Senior Center Coordinator, and Jennifer Bennett, Avon Senior Center Coordinator. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Very important subject, I think, that we're going to share with folks. Well, our first point that we'd like to talk about are specific programs, and we're talking about a particular program that you had last June, 2014, in which you showed a video and you invited guests in. Tell us a little bit about that, Kathleen.
Well, we collaborated with the Avon Senior Center and Canton Senior Center and Connecticut AARP to have a screening of the documentary Gen Silent. That was back in June, and we had 75 people that showed up for that event. So that excited us to see that sort of turnout for an event like that.
What were you expecting? What did you think?
You know, I remember sitting with Jennifer and Claire saying, you know, it may just be the three of us looking at each other. I wanted to be prepared for, you know, but we were I was elated at the response.
And when you invited these people, how did you get the word out?
Through the AARP website, through our publications. We publish a bi-monthly newsletter. Okay. I think you publish
We do a monthly newsletter.
Yep. Through other websites, gay, LGBT websites.
And what was the catalyst for? What made you say, hey, we need to do this?
You know, I had gone to a workshop, I'm going to say a couple years ago. I was at a conference, and one of the presentations was on outreach to LGBT older adults, and I realized that the Simsbury Senior Center wasn't doing any outreach, and I thought, we need to do something.
And you have a particular interest in older people, you told me.
Yeah. And so I got in touch with Jennifer in Avon, and we started talking about the presentation, and Nora from AARP contacted
Nora's
us.
great. Yes.
Yeah, Nora's wonderful.
She's
wonderful.
wonderful.
A lot of interviews with her. They do a fantastic job.
Yeah, and we just decided it's time to do something. Let's do something. Here's this opportunity to show this documentary, and let's just do it.
And there, apparently, I would think that there are statistics then to prove that this situation does exist for our seniors, that they are people that may have previously actually been out, as it were, and then as an older person now, when their partner or their spouse is deceased, they tend to hide. And, and thus you're trying to give them a safe place to go and to actually have a meeting place where people understand them and to perhaps find solutions to what they can do to broaden and widen their world.
Yes.
Because it's starting to shrink.
Well, they're coming to our senior centers, but they're selective about what they're coming to, and they're selective about what they're willing to share and what they're not willing to share. So we wanted to have a space and a time that might be specific so that they could feel free to come. Because issues are coming up at our senior centers all the time, where we're dealing with people who are part of the LGBT continuum, and we're having to advocate on their behalf because maybe there's a situation where we have to, as senior center, because they're coming to the center, where we're seeing maybe as they age, one spouse or significant other may be moving along the life continuum a little faster, and then all of a sudden family has come in where there wasn't family, and now because there could be a financial gain to some family, there's becoming a lot more issues that we weren't aware of.
Well, I take it then that it was a very successful event, number one, because you had the number of people that showed up, and then you're going to have some more programs coming up. Share with us. You don't have to give us exact dates because we're going to,
Yeah.
this program will be ongoing. We're going to show it many, many times. But is it going to be, coming months? When do you expect to have it?
I know we're starting a LGBT discussion group for older adults starting in March, and our goal is to have it monthly. If people want it, we want to offer the space.
That's
and we'd
wonderful.
Like to have and see where that group, how that group grows. I'm not sure what direction it'll take, but that'll be up to the members. And but we want to have the space here.
And the thing is, you can go to either one. The people that are here at the Simsbury one, and you could have a different
Absolutely.
program.
Oh, yeah.
And so therefore you can ongoing. Now, when the people came, what was the format of the program? You obviously had coffee and whatever, some snacks and so forth, and then you showed the Gen Silent video. Anything else? Did you have a speaker? Or
Yes, we had a panel.
Okay.
So there was someone who was an older adult lesbian, a gay male, someone who's transgender, and then the other person on the panel was Claire, who runs Canton Senior and Social Services. So we would have someone who's working with the population. And then Nora was moderating,
Sure.
and so did, she put it all together, and then Molly Reese-Gavin, who's president of Connecticut Community Care Incorporated, she was our moderator.
Okay. And what time do you expect your upcoming programs to be? Are they day programs, night programs?
We're running them in the evening. Ours is going to start at 5 p.m. I think just for a short survey we did, a lot of our folks are still working, and
Sure.
it's better availability. And also, I think we're doing help me, Jennifer, a financial program in Canton, aren't we?
Yes, coming up in March.
Financial planning for older LGBT adults in March at the Canton Senior Center.
Yeah, financial and estate planning.
Right.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is give you a website now. Correct me if I'm wrong, so that people can stay on top of these programs and see what's going on. The Simsbury one is simsbury-ct.gov. Is that correct? And the phone number is 860-658-3273. And the Avon one is avonct.gov. Is that correct? And the number is 860-675-4355. So for more information regarding the programs and their upcoming plans and their objectives and so forth, you can follow it there on their websites. Now, what we're going to see, now this actually, the movie was longer. We're going to see a 4-minute trailer, as it were, that will give people a flavor of what this was about, the challenges that are facing older people, and so forth. But I'm sure you could see the whole thing. That might be available even on your website, perhaps, to be able to see the whole video.
I'm not sure. We could certainly check on the schedule what is being shown in the area. I think there's some other screenings coming up, but maybe we could get that information on our website or.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Well, we are going to see that next, and I'm sure it'll be a great interest to you. And then I will have 2 more guests who are going to share their experiences with us. So I do want to thank you very much for your time. All right. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thanks.
Yep. Enjoyed doing it. On to our video.
A lot of people believe that you just live happily ever after, and that just is a myth.
People like ourselves, older, are hiding in nursing homes or whatever because they are scared to death.
It's incredibly common to go back into the closet again.
You just know when they don't want you there.
We've heard about homemakers going in, taking out a Bible and having the elder pray and asking for forgiveness.
And to be cured. It's not too late for you to be cured of this. They go back in the closet. She might mistreat me or abuse me.
They're so afraid of that they are resisting any kind of medical attention.
That person was in their mid-20s during the McCarthy era.
The closet was the norm.
They could lose their job, they could lose, families.
We were sick.
Just
we were
sick
We were
people.
considered sick.
People were involuntarily hospitalized in psychiatric facilities.
Even electroshock.
The degradation of these people is so complete that their sex satisfaction come only in being tortured themselves.
I was on the route to the nut farm.
So there's a real distrust of mainstream institutions.
I would never put myself in danger.
Time well spent.
he became much more fearful of people knowing that he was gay.
You're not leaving now, are you?
Not right now.
LGBT elders are more likely than the general population to age alone because many gay elders never had children, have not had great relationships with their families of origin. There would be a higher degree of sort of alienation and isolation.
My family was the reason I existed, and I lost them all. If they ever choose to catch up before I die, I welcome them.
LGBT aging issues are an epidemic.
There's a small and growing group of us.
We're trying to go into the existing network so they become more inclusive. One of the most common lines we get is like, we don't have any gay elders here.
If I wasn't the only person responsible for Alexander, I would have ended my life.
This is our life.
Good to see ya! Hi! We'll be there in a few years.
I'll build a stairway to paradise
with a new step every day.
We have a whole generation of people who don't know who we are. That's really sad, because you're missing out on a lot. We know a lot. We did a lot for you. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for us.
Look at how scrawny they are. Too bad I don't have an open casket.
Well, there'll be no open casket. There won't be anything, right?
If we are saying come out and be filled with pride, it's our responsibility to make sure that continues right through their last day.
My next guests are Diana Lombardi, who is the director on the board of directors for the Connecticut Trans-Advocacy Coalition, and Gustave, also known as Gus, Keach-Longo. He is vice president of senior services at the Community Renewal team. It's a pleasure to have both of you with me.
Well, thank you for this.
All right, let's talk about your titles are pretty self-explanatory, but Diana, tell me a little bit what your job entails.
Well, it's a volunteer position, and I kind of do everything for Connecticut Trans-Advocacy Coalition, or as we call it, CTAC. I answer the phones, and I go out and do the training, and also go to committee meetings and stuff like that. That's basically what my function is there at CTAC.
Is that a full-time position, part-time?
No, it's part-time. I'm retired, so therefore, it's whenever we get a phone call, I'm there to answer it, and also if there's a meeting coming up, I usually attend to that.
Right. What drew you to that position? Was that something you saw? Was it an ad?
No,
someone
actually,
asked you?
Right. It was more asking what could I do for the community.
Okay.
And after asking that a couple times, I gyrated towards Connecticut Trans-Advocacy Coalition. Okay. I realized that I had a lot to give to the community because being retired, I could go out and do more things.
Sure, sure. And Gus, your position?
Vice President of Senior Services for the Community Renewal team. So my responsibilities are to oversee all the senior citizen-related programs for CRT. So that includes the Meals on Wheels program, for example. We do about 6,000 meals throughout Harford County and part of Middlesex County.
That's been tougher this winter, hasn't it, with this weather?
It has been, and our folks have been troopers. I'll tell you, I'm so impressed by how hard they work to make sure those seniors
because older
get the
people
meals.
really wait for that food.
Absolutely, it's critical. And then I also oversee an assisted living facility for low-income seniors called the Retreat Assisted Living on Retreat Avenue across from Harford Hospital. We also have a retired senior volunteer program and a couple of housing sites, a generation site for grandparents raising their grandchildren. So I have several responsibilities all related to seniors.
And I think you mentioned to me, we were talking before, something about a veterans thing too.
Yeah, actually, we're in the process of putting together an assisted living facility for veterans, specifically for veterans and their spouses on the Newington campus of the VA. So we've been working on that for a couple of years, and it actually will be the first one in the country dedicated to veterans.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Well, now, what was, at what stage and age, respectively, Diana, did you realize? I mean, you're now at what point in your life?
Well, I'm retired. I'm collecting Social Security, and I'm on Medicare.
All right.
But my earliest memories was back probably when I was 6 or 7 years old. There was no language back then, but I just felt that, I was a woman. or a girl then. And all my life I felt that way, but I hid in the closet because I was afraid of what was going to happen if people found out my secret.
So who's the first person that you shared that with? Was it your family?
It was
a
my
friend?
brother.
It was your brother,
Yeah,
okay.
because they tend to notice little things when you come out with a dress and everything.
Yes, yes.
They kind of notice those little things.
Right,
so
right.
I realized I had to let my family.
Right.
And so I told him first, and then we went and had a family picnic, and I came out there to the rest of the family.
And did you feel much better and it was a more comfortable situation for you?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I had all types of stress-related problems, and that all went away once I came out.
Yes, and I think you also mentioned to me too that there's a very high suicide rate for people who do not. There's a great stress-related thing.
There was a survey conducted in, I believe, 2007, or maybe it was 2011, I think it was 2011, but they found 41% of the people, transgender people, at one time thought about committing suicide, compared to the national average of 1.5%.
We're talking about a very important subject. Now, what about you, Gus? At what point did you say, okay, I need to be myself?
Well, my first recollection literally was in kindergarten, but then as time went on, I actually became anorexic when I was 16, because I knew that I needed to start really acting on my feelings, and I didn't know how to do that. So I actually went to a counselor for quite a while, and he told me that I was not gay, that I just needed to find the right girl. So through the course of all of that, I ended up having a girlfriend for 5 years, and after that didn't work out because I was gay, we kind of went our own ways, and I was around 24 or so when I really started to accept it and be myself. But then I went through a stage for a few years where I was very angry, and I was mourning the idea of getting married. I was mourning the idea of having children, and thankfully today I am married and I have a son, and things have changed a lot since the 80s when I first was kind of coming out and trying to figure it all out. So I'm very lucky.
All right, well, let's go on track now to where we are, because we've been talking about seniors, and the issues and the challenges that seniors are facing I guess are a couple. Some may have never come out, but more traditionally they had come out at an earlier age and stage. Is that correct, Gus? And when they have, now they lose their spouse or their partner and they withdraw. And then what happens? And then that's when the issue starts again.
Well, I can say I see two things happening, and I can see one is the social aspect of it. Oftentimes the older seniors, I want to just use the term gay just as a collective term, not any disrespect to any other part of the group, but it makes it a little easier to have the conversation. So the folks who are gay end up having a hard time socializing. They are oftentimes connected to their own social groups, especially as their social groups start to dwindle over time.
Certainly.
So I'm very thankful to the ladies who have started working on getting the senior centers to be more open and affirming. Then the other aspect of this really comes down to when a gay person needs care, oftentimes needing personal care or to have a person who's paid to come into the home, because they get to the point where they're very vulnerable. I mean, if you think about the most vulnerable moment in your day is when you're in the shower. And if you can imagine now needing someone to help you in the shower and then having that person not know whether or not you're gay or you're not, and can you trust that person to be honest with yourself while you're there wet and naked? And oftentimes caregivers are very conservative people. Sometimes they've come from other countries and they have pretty much traditional beliefs. And in the process of all of that, the gay senior is very vulnerable and has to decide in him or herself, do I share this? Do I take the chance? Do I not? So oftentimes, even though they may have been out a good chunk of their lives, especially over the past couple of decades, it's very common, more so than not, they go back into the closet and decide to not share with their caregivers. All
right, so how can we change this? I'd like to just, before I come back to you, Diana, I'd like you to share a story with me. You said that there was a doctor-related incident, and you wanted to change doctors because one doctor just didn't understand what your issue.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to all different kinds of caregivers, whether they're a doctor or a nurse's aide or anyone else, or even an administrator of a facility. They need to understand the pocket of people whom they're taking care of. And I can say that through most of my adulthood, I ended up going to the same doctor that the rest of my family did.
Certainly, sure.
And then I got to the point where I needed to start having conversations with him about my relationships and started to have a relationship about my body as well. And I couldn't have those conversations because he just didn't understand. So I ended up talking to other gay men and finding a gay physician. So now I travel about 3 towns away in order to go to a physician who I can have an open and honest conversation. It's very common for gay folks to have to travel about 7 times farther to be a part of something.
But it's so important, though,
But it's, you have to
find those
be able to have
connections.
those open conversations, especially with a physician.
Sure, so that's why we're trying to shorten the space here. I want to say this to my viewers out there, and that's why we're having the Avon and the Simsbury and so forth, so that these dots are closer together, and that people don't need to go to so far away to find someone who understands their situation. All right, well, let me ask you this, Diana. We talk about doctors, we talk about psychiatrists here. Psychiatrists have a role to play in this, right? Correct?
Yes.
Particularly in your case.
Yes, that's very true. There's a standard of care that we have to go through, standard procedures that require us to see a therapist and then to transition and see endocrinologists and other doctors. And it has to be followed, and so it's not just something that we just decide one day and the next.
Certainly not, right.
And I think it's very important to educate the doctors because a lot of them do not know how to treat a trans person. So there's always people asking, where can I see a therapist? You know, and there's not that many out there. There's probably only a dozen in Connecticut that treat trans people.
Sure. Now, Gus, let's I want to come back to you because I think it's an important point, and both of you are involved in this. What is the greatest fear of a person who is different from the normal man and woman situation? Is the greatest fear the hurt that you get, the emotional hurt that you get, or the actual fear of physical harm? Because there's a great deal of harm, you told me, in Connecticut that goes on. Is that correct, Diana?
That's true. You know, there's individuals who get attacked all the time. Usually it doesn't make the news because we're afraid to report it. You know, it's all those little microaggressions. It's not so much the big ones, but it's the little ones that keep piling up over time.
All right, so then we also have to educate our law and our policemen as well, because when these things happen, they may not know, they may think that there's been a robbery, and that isn't the case at all. So I think there needs to be training there. But you told me, Gus, that you said it's the emotional.
It is, because even though I grew up more in the 80s and the 90s, and I did have a couple of experiences where people with whom I had hung out had been attacked or beaten, that kind of stuff still stays with me as the years go on. And if I think about the generation before mine, the people who are now becoming seniors, they have even more of those kinds of stories than I do. And so the emotional aspect of not being accepted for who you are, especially in the sanctuary of your own home, and the sanctuary of being in the bathroom, in the shower, that can be terrifying because all those images and all those fears that you've been carrying your whole life are still with you. So it's even more important that caregivers are open and affirming, but also can help make a little bit of a bridge for the person to be honest with them and also to be accepting of the person with whom they're caring.
Do you think that we have in the media and in, let's say, Hollywood, are they expressing the right stories about the experiences of people who are transgender or lesbians or gay or whatever terminology we're going to use here? Are they depicting the story correctly? And I'm thinking of things like the birdcage and another one about two cowboys together. Breakback, yes. Is that the true story? Is that a good reflection, or is that a misconception?
Well, there's a whole history in gay film. In fact, my partner actually did his entire education on history, the gay history in film. And when it comes down to there's a big difference between the birdcage and how the stereotypical couple was depicted by a straight director versus Brokeback Mountain that was set in a period of time back in the 60s, and it was much more subtle, it was much more realistic. Film has come a long way, television has come a long way, but even with the stereotypes that we have with Modern Family and that kind of stuff, they're meant to be comedies. They're meant to be entertaining.
Yes.
The difference with all of that is that now that a person becomes a senior, it's all internal work that they're doing. They really are working on whether or not they can be themselves or not be themselves. Are they safe? Are they not safe? And so that's all really quiet and subtle happening when people won't even realize it necessarily. So we've come a long way. Our whole society has come a long way. Connecticut has come a long way with gay marriage and several other bills, but we still have a long way to go to truly understand.
So legislature needs to be involved in this. We need to have legislature that's going to cover the situations. We need to have more programs as we are doing right now, right this moment. We need to have the continuing help and assistance and support that you're getting from the senior centers. It's important for everyone, including the youngest in our community, but particularly for our senior citizens who have really had to live through all these various stages in life and have now come to a point where they hopefully can rest and relax and have a good time, but it is actually the opposite, and it can become a nightmare. So we're really trying to open up the books, folks, on this. We want more discussion of it. I am extremely grateful for the two of you to come in and be my guest on the program, because you brought forth and you've been very candid about a subject that's very important to everyone. So I do appreciate it.
Susan,
Thank you.
I appreciate your effort.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much,
having us.
Diana.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Now you can see us on Facebook, and you can see all of our programs on our website at www.ctvalleyviews.com. I do have one other comment I'd like to make. Speaking of seniors. Nothing ages one more than war, and we are asking you, our viewers, to donate to our track chair fund, to one of these life-extending vehicles, to a Connecticut veteran. Please donate now. See the track chair fund at our online publication site, ctvveb.com. This is Susan Regan. Thank you for joining me and bringing proof to the people. Our thanks to Windsor Federal Savings for making this program possible. Neighbors helping neighbors since 1936.